Well, I'd love to stand here and tell the American people, we can cut your taxes and we can increase spending and everything's going to be just fine. But I can't do that because I'm here to deliver a dose of reality. This bill dramatically increases deficits in the near term, but promises our government will be fiscally responsible 5 years from now. Where have we heard that before? How do you bind a future Congress to these promises? This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math, if it wants, but bond investors don't. And this week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy our debt and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on the 10-year note, the 20-year note, and the 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. And what are we telling them? Instead of taking care of that problem, we're going to give you a $1,600 tax break.
Hardcore Trump Republican Thomas Massie is one of only a couple of House conservatives willing to continue to recognize the reality of Trump's tax and spending bill that just passed the House in the middle of the night. They hoped that no one would notice their robbery while you were sleeping.
Under the taxing and spending levels in this bill, we're going to rack up, the authors say, $20 trillion of new debt over the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's closer to $30 trillion of new debt in the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight.
No, you won't be surprised that Massie is now on Trump's shit list after their love-hate relationship has turned again to calling for him to be voted out. But Republicans have never lived up to their fiscally responsible tag that they gave themselves. And the MAGA party is so unconcerned with their latest round of destruction, they only provide remedial explanations like this.
Talk to me about what this bill costs. I mean, it's being widely reported so far coming out of the House, it would cost $4 trillion. If you're looking for $2 trillion in mandatory spending cuts, which is what I understand that you said, correct me if I'm wrong. But that doesn't get you down to a lower number. What do you think about the trillions of dollars that this would add potentially to the debt? And how do we alleviate that?
So here's the tax cuts cost $4 trillion.
Okay.
We believe that it is important, and a foundation for balancing the budget is to remain a growing economy. This bill will preserve that option. We will have $2.6 trillion of economic growth, dynamic scoring. We don't think that is a high watermark. We actually think that's middle-of-the-road expectation of what we could see. And then the remaining amount is $2 trillion of the mandatory reforms pays for what the economic growth does not get us all the way there with. And so we are net deficit reduction between those two major dials. And we believe it will only improve from there because we'll have more economic growth and we'll be able to lock these mandatory spending reforms in, of which we think that we're going to get more savings.
This guy, who was one of the architects of Project 2025, that Donald Trump acted like he never heard of, said 6 or 7 times in that minute of bullshit, we believe, we think, it could, while trying to explain away the trillions of dollars of debt that this fiscally responsible party is adding in concrete numbers. And by the way, every time you hear these guys say spending cuts, what they're talking about is the money that you paid in taxes that helps you live a life a little easier being taken and given away to people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Scott Bessent, all the people that had front row access at Trump's inauguration. This is the pickpocketing they've been setting up for months.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
USA.
Speaker still on the floor, receiving high fives, hugs, people trying to get photographs with him as they are celebrating this victory. Republicans winning this vote 215 to 214. There were still 2 Republican holdouts, Thomas Massie and Warren Davidson, who voted against this bill because of concerns that it is adding too much to the country's deficit. But still, this is a huge victory where Speaker Johnson was able to bring some of the moderates together, some of those swing district New York Republicans together, and members of the House Freedom Caucus.
Rich, connected lawmakers are giving high fives and taking pictures with a self-described Christian, right after they passed a bill that'll make your life more expensive, your healthcare less accessible, and increase your tax burden. While the cost of everyday items increases, the only thing that they're celebrating is that they're one step closer to thumbing through your wallet. Trump joined in on the celebration himself. The one big, beautiful bill has passed the House of Representatives. This is arguably the most significant piece of legislation that'll ever be signed in the history of our country. The bill includes massive tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax deductions when you purchase an American-made vehicle, along with strong border security measures, pay raises for our ICE and Border Patrol agents, funding for the Golden Dome, Trump saving accounts for newborn babies, and much more. Great job by Speaker Mike Johnson and the House leadership, and thank you to every Republican who voted yes on this historic bill. Now, it's time for our friends in the United States Senate to get to work and send this bill to my desk as soon as possible. There's no time to waste. The Democrats have lost control of themselves and are aimlessly wandering around showing no confidence, grit, or determination. They have forgotten their landslide loss in the presidential election and are warped in the past, hoping someday to revive open borders for the world's criminals to be able to pour into our country, men to be able to play in women's sports, and transgender for everybody.
So I think the pressure on them to pass this will be enormous. I have seen time and time again House Republican members saying they're in no at the outset, and then suddenly they get a tap on the shoulder. They're dragged out of the House floor and back into the Republican members' cloakroom, and they're handed a cell phone, and it's Donald Trump literally yelling at them and cursing at them. I tend to think that history will repeat itself, and that one way or the other, they'll be able to get the votes. I hope I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong. I'm going to fight like hell to make sure this awful policy doesn't become law. But I've just seen them fold too many times before to believe that they won't fold again this time.
Republicans had to make a very difficult decision. Were they going to vote against Donald Trump's agenda or not? I just spoke with one of the conservatives who had been a holdout over the weekend, and they told me Donald Trump did make a big difference here. His legislative team made a big difference here.
He's convinced enough supporters that while they give the rich more money at the expense of working class Americans, things like pay raises for ICE agents, funding his Golden Dome, and extraordinarily expensive and illegal deportation policy will somehow make their lives better. But if we pay attention, you'll see he goes right back to the divisive triggers that clouded so many people's brains by bashing Democrats that couldn't even stop it, talking about the 2 trans girls that play sports in the country, and fear-mongering about trans folks in general. He's telling you that he realizes you're willing to sacrifice your economic future to hate people that you've never met, while he and his buddies stuff their mattresses with your money.
Tonight, hundreds of Republican members of Congress are wanting to line up to vote for the biggest transfer of wealth from the working poor and the working class to billionaires and mega corporations that we've seen in this country's history. Donald Trump and congressional Republicans are making it worse, gutting Medicaid and food assistance to give tax cuts to billionaires and special interests. And all of the things that you could give tax breaks for, this bill will cut taxes on silencers for guns. And so, America, we got to be very clear and truthful about this budget. Laws for gun manufacturers to make more money off of the death of children and our people, yes. Food for children to eat, no. Healthcare for seniors, disabled Americans, and millions more, no. Resources to help working families fight to ends meet, no. This is why they've been told to not host any town halls back in their districts. That's why this debate is happening in the middle of the night. It's nothing short of theft. Republicans would have us believe that the person most likely to steal from you is a person in a hoodie, a black person in a hoodie, or an immigrant with tattoos. This is to distract from the fact that at least here tonight, the people stealing from Americans are not folks with tattoos and hoodies. It's people wearing suits and ties and congressional pins sitting in this Capitol right now. Not in some random alley wrapped in darkness, but in the United States Congress wrapped in the flag. It is disgusting, and we will never forget this.
Maxwell Frost is one of the few vocal Democrats that's too young to follow the protocol of protecting congressional liars at the expense of regular Americans. Again, you'll notice that Trump brought up immigrants, minorities, and trans Americans to keep people distracted from the things in this bill that even House Republicans were way too ashamed to read out loud.
So that the American public knows what this bill does, one of the little things that it does, would you please read page 901, line 20?
I think it'd be better if you read it.
Oh, he doesn't want to read it.
I'll
read it.
I know the
well, actually,
legislation, but I'm
Ranking
not
Member
be
Moore,
part of your little
Ranking Member
show
Moore
here, so you can read it.
It was a question if you would read it, so I'll ask Ranking Member Moore to read the text. This is in their bill. They don't want to read a line from their own bill. Ranking Member.
I don't want to read the bill for you.
I'll help you out.
I am testifying about this legislation. I'm not going to read the bill to you.
Why don't you just read it?
Section 111106, repeal of excise tax on indoor tanning services.
So they're going to repeal, they're repealing an excise tax on tanning beds. Okay, so if you have a tanning bed, you get a little bit of a tax break. And if you need a hospital bed in rural America, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. But really, we are prioritizing tanning beds over hospital beds in rural America.